crispy flaky crust, creamy gravy, and tender pieces of chicken and vegetables, chicken pot pie is one of the best comfort dishes of all time. Let's make it. I'm gonna bring the filling together in one pan. I'm gonna start with about 6 tablespoons of butter. We're gonna use the butter to cook our vegetables in. We'll cook those for about 5 minutes or until the onions are nice and translucent and the carrots are beginning to soften. I like to go ahead and add my salt at this point. That's gonna help the vegetables soften up a little bit, about 1.5 teaspoons. While my vegetables cook, I'm gonna chop up my chicken. I did cook this chicken super simple. You've seen me do it before, just in a little foil packet with some salt and pepper. This next ingredient is purely optional, but I just had some on hand. I'm going in with about a teaspoon of fresh rosemary. I would not substitute the dried versions. I would just leave it out. Next, I'm gonna stir in about a 1/3 cup of flour. This is gonna thicken up our mixture. Cook that for about a minute or so, and then we will stir in our liquid. I'm using about 1.5 cups of chicken broth and about 1/2 cup of heavy cream. Stir that in, loosening up any little bits that have stuck to the bottom. And then once this comes to a simmer, you'll know how much it's going to thicken. So if you need to add a little more stock, you can. I don't like a chicken pot pie that has a super runny gravy. That's not what we're going for here. So I'm gonna let this come to a simmer, get it nice and thick, and then we're gonna cook it until our vegetables are tender. That'll take about 5 to 8 minutes. And then we'll stir in our chicken, fill our pie shell, and get it in the oven. This is so rich and creamy. You'll wanna turn the heat down just to a low simmer. You're just cooking it until those carrots get tender. Finally, I'll stir in that cooked chicken. It's about 4 cups and a cup of frozen peas. This is just essential to chicken pot pie. And then my final ingredient, again, this is purely optional, is a couple tablespoons of chopped fresh parsley. A lot of these comfort dishes just have that long, slow cooking flavor. So I like to just brighten it up a little bit with some parsley. That looks perfect. It's nice and thick. The moisture from the vegetables and the chicken is going to kind of thin it out as it cooks in the pie shell. So I don't want it much thinner than that. Perfect. Let's fill her up. Of course, this is going into a pre-made pie shell. I just get the kind in the refrigerator section that come 2 rolls in a pack. Put them in a pie plate, spoon your filling right in, and then just unroll the other crust. I'm just gonna unroll it right on top. All right, and then we'll just kind of press the sides together and curl them under, make them a little fancy. The frozen versions take at least an hour to bake. Our filling's still pretty hot, so it's only gonna take about 30 minutes in the oven, especially if you're using the pre-made pie dough and pre-cooked chicken. It's not perfect, but it'll do. All right, final step, and this is important, is you wanna cut slits in the top to let that steam escape. That way our crust will stay crispy and flaky on the outside, not super soggy. All right, and that's it. If you want, you can brush this with a little bit of egg wash. That's gonna make it really shiny. I like to place this on a pan inside the oven in case some bubbles over. It'll keep your oven nice and clean. 425 degrees for about half an hour. We'll have chicken pot pie. Oh, look at this. Piping hot chicken pot pie. She's a beauty. Just like any time when we make a pie or a casserole or something like that, we want to let it sit before we cut into it so that everything does stay intact. You'll notice anytime you bake a pie that the outside kind of cooks a little faster than the inside. So if your crust is starting to get a little dark on the outside, you can create a little shield with just some foil. Just cut the center out, lay it lightly across the top, and that's gonna let the inside still get golden brown where the outside kind of slows it down on the outside. All right, let's dig in. Getting that first piece of pie out is always the hardest, so don't judge. Wish you could smell this right now. Look at that, just look at it. Steamy, creamy, crusty. You know that is filled with perfect bites. Let's have one. This might be the best chicken pot pie I've ever made. And I've got that on record. This is so savory. The vegetables are cooked perfectly. There's just enough crisp tenderness left. And that chicken is, I mean, it's succulent. This, can you see this? That is the perfect bite of all bites. It just makes you feel so warm and cozy inside. I'm telling you, this is the best chicken pot pie. If you haven't made it in a while, now is the time. And when you do, please tag me and Allrecipes. I love hearing what you have to say, so let me know what you want me to teach you how to make next. I did it.